China says it's ended a military exercise in which its armed forces conducted large-scale drills surrounding Taiwan.
Well, after Russia raised the stakes in the war against Ukraine by firing an experimental ballistic missile, the NATO military alliance has said it won't be deterred.
What would you do if the world as we know it suddenly changed? Forever? Imagine this: nuclear war, a deadly pandemic, or catastrophic natural disasters all happening at once. Sounds terrifying, right? Well, it's no longer just a hypothetical. This could happen, and when it does, being unprepared will cost you everything. So, today, we're going to break down the top 3 doomsday scenarios of 2024-2025. What's coming? And most importantly, how do we survive when it all falls apart? Stick around, because the steps you take today could mean the difference between life and death. When people think of nuclear war, they imagine a single explosion, but the reality is far worse. One nuclear warhead could destroy an entire city, killing millions instantly. The blast wave would flatten buildings for miles, and the searing heat would turn everything in its path to ash. But this is only the beginning. The long-term effects, like radiation poisoning, would make survival impossible in these regions for decades. Fallout contaminates water, soil, and air, rendering entire areas uninhabitable. In 2024, with geopolitical tensions rising among superpowers like the US, Russia, and China, the possibility of a nuclear conflict is no longer unthinkable. The question is, are we prepared for this grim reality? But the devastation doesn't stop there. A nuclear strike wouldn't just destroy lives. It would collapse the very systems we depend on to survive. A nuclear strike doesn't just destroy cities, it cripples the systems we rely on for survival. Think about this. Power grids would fail, plunging entire regions into darkness. Communication systems would stop, leaving us disconnected. Supply chains would grind to a halt. No food deliveries, no clean water, no access to emergency services. Imagine a world where even a simple trip to the grocery store is no longer possible. In this scenario, hospitals would have no power, vehicles would run out of fuel, and chaos would spread as people scramble for resources. Could you navigate such a reality? And as if losing infrastructure wasn't bad enough, another invisible enemy lurks in the shadows: radiation fallout. Radiation doesn't just kill, it changes everything. Fallout zones, like those seen in Chernobyl, remain uninhabitable for decades, some for over 50 years. Survivors may escape the initial explosion, but face a new horror: long-term exposure, leading to cancer, birth defects, and genetic mutations passed on for generations. Imagine entire regions marked as permanent danger zones, where life simply cannot exist. The real danger isn't just the explosion, it's the invisible killer that stays behind, lurking in the soil, water, and air. And while fallout lingers, there's another silent weapon to worry about, one that could shut down the modern world in seconds. Let's talk about EMP attacks. An EMP attack could cripple modern society. In seconds, all electronic devices, including phones, cars, and power grids, would stop working. Imagine waking up in a world where your technology is useless and survival depends on primitive skills. Such an attack would send us back to the Dark Ages, where communication, navigation, and transportation are impossible. Could you survive without a phone, a computer, or even a working car? The threats are overwhelming, but survival is possible. Let's focus on the steps you can take today to prepare for the unthinkable. Surviving a nuclear war requires preparation, knowledge, and resilience. Start with creating a well-equipped fallout shelter. This could be an underground basement or a secure room in your home with thick walls to block radiation. Line the walls with dense materials like concrete, earth, or sandbags to provide extra protection. Stockpile at least a 30-day supply of food and water for each family member. Store non-perishable items like canned goods, rice, and dried beans, along with plenty of water. One person needs at least 1 gallon of water per day. Calculate accordingly. Don't forget iodine tablets. They help protect your thyroid from radiation exposure. A hand crank or solar-powered radio is crucial for receiving emergency broadcasts. Without power, this might be your only link to the outside world. Practice drills with your family. Know where to go, what to grab, and how to seal your shelter quickly. Preparation isn't just about supplies, it's about knowing how to use them under pressure. Also, plan for sanitation. Simple items like plastic bags, bleach, and gloves can make a huge difference when living in confined spaces. While we can prepare for the tangible horrors of nuclear war, there's another threat we cannot see: the devastating potential of a pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic taught us how quickly a virus can spread, but it's only a glimpse of what's possible. A new, more lethal virus could spread globally in less than 36 hours, overwhelming healthcare systems and leaving entire nations unprepared. Imagine a pandemic with no vaccines, no treatments, and a mortality rate far higher than anything we've seen before. The speed at which diseases spread today is unprecedented. With international travel and densely populated cities, an outbreak in one corner of the globe can become a global crisis within days. But a pandemic isn't just about viruses. It's also about the growing threat of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, or superbugs. Antimicrobial resistance, or AMR, is the silent epidemic already unfolding. Superbugs, bacteria that are resistant to antibiotics, are on the rise, making even minor infections potentially deadly. By 2050, experts predict superbugs could kill more people annually than cancer. Imagine a world where the simplest wound could become fatal, where medical procedures like surgeries and chemotherapy are impossible without effective antibiotics. This isn't just a future threat, it's already happening in hospitals worldwide. And as medicine struggles to keep up, healthcare systems themselves begin to collapse. A pandemic would overwhelm hospitals, leaving you without any medical care. Imagine this: hospitals at full capacity, patients lining corridors, and medical staff pushed beyond their limits. Supplies run out quickly: ventilators, masks, even basic medications. What happens if a loved one gets sick and there's no room in the hospital? What if there's no medicine left at all? But the challenges go beyond physical health. Pandemics break down societies and strain mental health to the breaking point. A pandemic doesn't just harm our bodies, it tears apart the very fabric of society. Fear spreads faster than the virus itself, leaving people paralyzed by anxiety and uncertainty. Isolation becomes a new way of life, turning even the strongest minds into battlefields of doubt. Relationships strain, communities fracture, and the very idea of normal becomes a distant memory. How will you keep your sanity when everything around you begins to fall apart? Staying calm and composed may be your greatest challenge and your most powerful survival tool. The solution is preparation. Let's talk about how to build a pandemic survival kit that ensures your safety and your family's survival. Stockpile essential supplies: antiviral medication, personal protective equipment, and a reliable source of clean water. Have enough food to last at least a month. Practice quarantine drills with your family. Plan how to communicate, where to go, and how to keep your home virus-free. Simple items like disinfectants, gloves, and masks can be life-saving. And don't forget about entertainment. Staying mentally engaged during long periods of isolation is as important as physical safety. And while pandemics are terrifying, they aren't the only natural force reshaping our world. Let's move on to the growing threat of natural disasters. Extreme weather events are becoming the new normal. Wildfires, floods, hurricanes, and heat waves are no longer rare occurrences. In 2022 alone, natural disasters caused over $165 billion in damages globally, and the trend is accelerating. The science is clear. Climate change is making these disasters more intense and more frequent. What used to happen once in a century is now happening every few years. Communities are left devastated, and recovery is taking longer each time. How do we prepare for a future where the weather itself is our greatest enemy? But extreme weather doesn't just damage homes and infrastructure. It disrupts the very resources we rely on to survive, like food and water. Droughts and floods are wreaking havoc on global agriculture, leading to widespread water and food shortages. Crops fail, livestock dies, and communities are left to fight over dwindling resources. This isn't a distant future. It's already happening. In regions like California, prolonged droughts are causing severe water restrictions, while in other parts of the world, floods are wiping out entire harvests. Without reliable food and water sources, society could face massive unrest. Imagine fighting for access to clean water or a loaf of bread. Do you have a plan for food storage or water purification? Can you grow your own food if supply chains break down? But while shortages creep in over time, some disasters strike without any warning at all, like earthquakes and tsunamis. Earthquakes and tsunamis are sudden, destructive, and unpredictable. Every year, we're reminded of the devastation they can cause, from crumbled cities to lives lost in an instant. With tectonic activity increasing in certain regions, experts warn of major seismic events in the near future. Take the Ring of Fire, for example, a zone where 75% of the world's earthquakes occur. Countries like Japan, Indonesia, and even parts of the US are at constant risk. Are you prepared for an earthquake? Do you have an evacuation plan for your family? These disasters don't wait for you to be ready. They just happen. And even when the ground stops shaking, the chaos doesn't end. Let's talk about how disasters can bring total infrastructure collapse. Natural disasters don't just disrupt daily life. They destroy critical infrastructure in a matter of hours. Roads become impassable, electricity is cut off, and communications are down. Imagine being stranded in your own home without food, water, or a way to call for help. That's the reality of a disaster's aftermath. For example, after Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, it took months to restore electricity to many areas, leaving thousands without basic necessities. Disasters like this show how quickly society can fall apart when the systems we rely on are gone. And when the dust settles, survival becomes about adapting to a new normal. Let's explore how long-term self-sufficiency is the key to thriving after a disaster. Once the storm has passed, the real challenge begins: sustaining yourself in the aftermath. You'll need to purify water, store food, and maintain shelter. Could you survive without electricity, running water, or access to stores? Self-sufficiency isn't just a skill, it's a necessity. Start small. Learn to grow food in your backyard or use vertical gardens indoors. Invest in water purification systems and solar-powered devices. Build a community network with your neighbors. Pooling resources and skills can make survival not just possible, but sustainable. The longer you can live off the grid, the better your chances of survival. Natural disasters are a reminder of nature's power, but preparation can turn fear into resilience. Now, Let's bring everything together with the key steps to take before it's too late. If you're serious about preparing for any disaster, you need to be ready to go at a moment's notice. That's why I'm introducing the Survivor's Ultimate Emergency Bag, your one-stop solution for surviving the worst. This bag contains everything you'll need: food, water, first aid supplies, tools, and more. Don't wait until it's too late. Click the link in the description to get yours now and be ready when disaster strikes. With your emergency supplies in place, let's focus on building a plan for long-term survival and resilience. This is your final warning. You need a personal emergency plan. When disaster strikes, it's too late to start thinking about what to do. Plan a meeting place, know how to communicate without phones, and ensure everyone in your household has a bug-out bag ready to go. Seconds matter. Don't wait to prepare. But having a plan is just the beginning. Plans fail without the right resources to back them up. That's where self-sufficiency becomes critical. Stockpiling food, water, and medications should be your top priority. Do it now before grocery stores run out, before pharmacies close, and before you're left with nothing. Preparation today means survival tomorrow. Even with resources, survival is rarely a solo effort. Let's talk about the importance of building a community network. You can't survive alone. Start building a network of people you trust: family, neighbors, and friends. Pool resources, share skills, and create a support system that can weather any crisis. Together, we're stronger. But even with resources and support, disasters can take a heavy toll on your mind. Let's explore how mental resilience can be the difference between panic and survival. Disasters take a toll not just on the body, but on the mind. Fear, anxiety, and uncertainty can paralyze you when you need to act. Start building mental resilience now. Practice staying calm under pressure, and teach your loved ones to do the same. Panic is the enemy of survival. But it's not just about surviving individually. We need to think bigger. Our global systems must be stronger to protect everyone from what's coming. The world is changing, and we need to act. Support global peace efforts, push for climate action, and demand better systems to withstand these disasters. Preparation isn't just personal, it's societal. The time to act is now. And that's the key takeaway. While we can't predict the future, we can control how we prepare for it. Here's what you need to do now. The world is unpredictable, but your preparedness doesn't have to be. Whether it's nuclear war, a deadly pandemic, or a devastating natural disaster, the steps you take today could save your life tomorrow. Start now, because when disaster strikes, it'll be too late to plan. So, which of these survival tips resonated with you the most? Is it building a fallout shelter, stocking up on food and water, or creating a community network? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas. And before you go, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more life-saving insights and survival tips. Together, we can face an uncertain future with strength and resilience. Stay prepared, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.